Hello and welcome to my full review of Brandon Sanderson's Wind and Truth. Now just a heads up, this video does contain all the spoilers, so you have been warned. If you're looking for a review video that does not contain spoilers, check out my previous review video which I posted about 2 weeks ago. Now I'm going to try to keep this video pretty concise because if I let myself talk for too long, I'll be going on and on for hours, and we just don't have that kind of time. Well, maybe you do, but I don't. So in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 things I absolutely loved in this book, 5 things I didn't love as much, and then I'm going to wrap it all up with an overall review score. First thing I absolutely loved was anything involving Adolin. Adolin really became the star of the show of this book for me. All of his sections had the best fight scenes, they had the best character development, they had the best interactions with minor characters, and I just gravitated toward it so much that I found myself just wanting to get past the other sections just so that I could read his. The second thing I absolutely loved about this was Renarin and Rlain. They have quickly become one of my favorite Cosmere couples because it's something that has been building since Oathbringer, and I've been waiting for this. They are sweet, they are genuine, I loved their heartfelt connection, and I thought that it was just very well written. Next, I loved Szeth's progression as he fought the different honor bearers, because to me it was very reminiscent of video game battles where you're going through progressively difficult boss battles. I grew up watching anime and playing Final Fantasy, and to me this whole sequence and everything that he goes through was just so perfect. I loved it. The next part that I really loved about this book, even though it was a smaller portion of the overall narrative, was anything involving Lift. Lift has grown on me significantly over the course of this series. I started out not really liking her, but the more that she interacts with the other characters and the more you learn about her perspectives and who she is as a person, it just really builds her as a strong character to me, and this solidifies her as one of my top favorite characters overall. In fact, my favorite interlude in this entire story was the one with her and Xyle. I want to see more of their interactions, and I can't wait to see what happens to her because of his training in the back half of the series. My only real complaint is that it was short-lived. I wanted more. And finally, I loved all of the Cosmere tie-ins. This is the first Stormlight Archive book that I've read where I am fully Cosmere aware. With Rhythm of War, I had not read beyond that and Mistborn. And so seeing the connecting threads between this and Nalthis and Sel, it just gave me a nice little sense of satisfaction. And it gives us a broader perspective of what's happening with the rest of the Cosmere as a whole. Now for the things that I didn't love as much, because I do have some pretty solid criticisms about this book. Even though I do enjoy it as a whole, I do want to address the things that fell flat for me. The first thing is Kaladin's character. Don't get me wrong, I love the fact that his mental health journey has naturally progressed into this phase of recovery. I think that that's handled very well. The problem is that when somebody who has been suffering from depression is in that frame of mind, they shouldn't lose their personality. They shouldn't lose their snark, their wit, their humor. And I really think that Kaladin lost some of that spark in his sections here. Now I could talk more about that, but for the sake of time, that's where I'm going to leave it. The second thing is actually related to that, and that is how mental health discussions are covered here. I'm a huge advocate for and a huge fan of mental health discussions in literature, specifically in the Stormlight Archive. It's one of my favorite representations. In this one, it feels unnatural and almost after-school special Z. An example of this happens early in the book between Shallan and Gaz. They're talking about his gambling addiction, and it really does feel like they're just talking to the audience. I think Gaz at some point says something like, well, that's the thing with gambling addictions. It doesn't look like that. And it feels like we aren't being shown something, we aren't being guided, we're being told how to feel about this. and I just wasn't really a fan of that. The next thing that I did not enjoy was the scene between Jasnah and Odium where they're having their final debate. That entire scene was just full of logical fallacies and arguments that were very faulty. To me, Jasnah didn't act in character. She's supposed to be this very well-renowned logician. She's supposed to be very good at debate. And to me, she fell flat. It was a very weak moment for her. And it didn't convince me that she actually lost the argument. It convinced me that that wasn't our real Jasnah. I did not enjoy that scene at all. The next thing that I did not enjoy at all was the scene between the champions. We've been building up to this very intense battle between Dalinar and an unnamed champion. And I thought that it was going to be a much bigger, much more drawn out battle. It wasn't a battle. It was a reveal. It was a few hits and a strike maybe, and then a discussion. And I didn't like that. It felt very anticlimactic to me for something that we've been anticipating for years now. Also, the fact that it ended up being Gavinor was just weird to me. That's my personal opinion. And then the final thing that I did not enjoy was Honor's perspective towards the end of the book. I understand what it was trying to do. It was trying to give us a history of Roshar from the perspective of the Shard Honor, which I think is fine. It's just that, one, the timing of it happened right before the Sanderlanche. And so it felt like it dragged back the pacing a lot to give us a bunch of backstory, and it tripped me up quite a bit. I found myself very impatient to get through these sections so that I could get to where I knew the story was going. It also felt very exposition-y. We were being fed a lot of lore and information rather than being given it over the course of the series in a very natural way. And it didn't vibe for me. I understand, again, what the intent was. It just didn't hit for me personally. And those are my thoughts on Wind and Truth. I do have additional opinions and thoughts about things that happened in the book, but honestly, the way that I feel about them will likely be impacted by Book 6 because a lot of things still have to play out. Overall, I think that I give this book about an 8.5-ish out of 10, which does make it the lowest rated book in the Stormlight Archive for me, but still a very solid novel. So if you read this book, and I hope you did because you just sat through a video full of spoilers, let me know what you thought. Do you agree with my opinions, or do you have other perspectives? Let me know in the comments, and as always, be kind to each other. Thanks, everybody.